Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Richard.
I'm Carlos.
We're the Real Dads of New York. Don't forget to keep this channel going. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and click that bell. Don't forget. All right, so we got a lot of questions, or we've been getting a lot of questions over the last 2 years about our adoption story. If you watched the previous video that we did with Vice and Ali TV, we talked a little bit about the financial aspect of adoption, but we never really discussed what our road to adoption was from start to finish. So this is our adoption story. Okay, so as you guys know, Carlos and I got married September 27th, 2015, and we always knew that we wanted children. We didn't necessarily know how long it would take for us to father children, whether that would be through surrogacy, which is not legal in New York State, through foster, through private adoption, so we had a lot of things to think about. The first year of marriage, we didn't really do much in the way of adoption. We just were enjoying being a newly married couple. I want to say towards around August 2016 is when we really started to talk more about what adoption or what starting a family could look like for us. So we applied to a number of info sessions that were happening around the city from a few different agencies. We went to a foster agency to understand what that process was like. We went to 2 private agencies, and we ultimately decided on the one that we moved forward with, which was Spence Chapin, based here out of New York. And so what that looks like for people who don't know, with Spence in particular, you have to undergo a webinar to show your interest in adoption. A webinar is geared toward helping the prospective parent or parents understand what the process is like, different routes you could take to adoption, whether that be domestic, whether that be international, open adoption, closed adoption. There are many different routes that one could take depending on what your family wants or needs or is comfortable with. So we did the webinar, I want to say on a Tuesday evening, excuse me. And once the webinar is complete, then they release the official application for you to go ahead and apply. So the webinar was about an hour and a half long, I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly. And they went through just down and dirty, really quick, how much the process would cost, because that agency believes in giving you as final of a number as they can, so you can financially plan backwards from that. They talked about, what types of children are in care. They wanted to debunk myths about birth families, birth mothers in particular. Many of us believe that a lot of these women are teenage mothers. In fact, most of these women are actually aged 21 to 32. These women have careers in front of them. Many of them are maybe in school, involved in relationships that didn't work out, and they wanted an opportunity to not be a parent, but to really fulfill their own personal views and aspirations without judgment, of course. And so we thought maybe, teenage mothers who didn't have other resources, and that was who the clientele was. That's actually not true. Anyway, so we did the webinar, we agreed to apply, not thinking that anything would come of it as quickly as it did. 24 hours after we submitted our application, we got a call saying that we were accepted into the agency. They had seen our package, if you will. The package included our story, how we met, pictures of our family, why we wanted to be parents, and the whole lot. So we got a call the next day. I was in a meeting, didn't recognize who the number was, and got the call, and yeah, we ran. So we did the orientation. We were going away to Paris and to Barcelona, as we said before. So we were given homework. So at the close of that orientation, we had to fork over $5,000, and that money was sort of the beginning of our process. So we, after that day, had to complete.
And again, $5,000 didn't fall off the tree.
No.
There was a savings plan.
Right.
And I think for most people who tend to judge and not knowing the process, we need to be mindful of how we cast judgment, because I had someone at my job question me about how is it that you became foster or adopted parent so fast? And I know people who's waiting 2 or 3 years and never got a call. You don't know what people's financial background is like, you know, what it's like.
Or you don't also know what the preferences the parents have, because it's not just about, I mean, you should assume anyone in the agency comes from or is able to afford it because they're there and they made the plan. But sometimes the birth parents have specific requests around who they want their child to end up with. For some women, they want 2 men because they want to know that that's going to be the only mother, that she's the only mother the kid will ever have. For some parents, they want it to be a Christian family with mother and father and other children. For some of them, they want to know that their child will be the couple's only child ever. So you don't know what the parents have or what they want. But anyway, so we got the packet. It included, basically we had to divulge our entire life, our finances. We had to be medically screened. We had to be mentally screened, seems like. We had to get references. We had to make sure we were CPR certified. We had to take online classes to better understand what it's like to be what we are called a conspicuous family. So it was a pretty involved process, but we went away and we're given a November 18th, if I'm not mistaken, a November 18th deadline. So basically a little over a month and a half is what we were given to complete all of our documents and submit everything back in for consideration to be reviewed, upon which time we will then go through our home study and then become a waiting family. So we went away to Paris, not really thinking much of the process until we got back. Our anniversary, as I mentioned before, is September 27th. And so we were in Paris doing our Parisian thing, going to the Louvre and, you know, exploring all of what Paris has to offer. And so we had actually gone to a cafe in Trocadero, which has a direct view of the Eiffel Tower at midnight, because I'm cheesy that way. I'm very cheesy that way. And I own it, it's fine. We wanted to do a champagne toast at midnight to, you know, commemorate our anniversary and to celebrate, you know, the full year of us being a wedded couple.
I love you, yes I love you, I need you, I need you, I need you, I can't live without you, I trust you with every ounce of me, just teach me, just take me.
I want you to keep that date in the back of your mind, because that date and that time is really significant to our adoption story. Okay, so fast forward, we come back to the States, and now it's crunch time, right? We gotta make sure that we have, you know, he goes to his doctor to get medically screened, I go to my doctor to get medically screened, we look at our finances, we have to submit bank statements, we have to get, I believe it was 4 references, if I'm not mistaken, and we don't get to see what the people write. The agency is very particular about that, so we give them the people's names, they reach out, and the person or people who are writing references for us will send the references directly to the agency, not to us. And so we don't have any of that information. We don't know what was said. Although 2 people happen to be really close family friends, otherwise we would have given them their names to reference. So we eventually found out what was said, which was all flattering, of course.
But it was the truth. It
was the truth. And then we went to be CPR certified. I was CPR certified online. Carlos went to an in-person training. I'm making the process seem easy because to get those records and to get everything in line took a lot of work. They want to know where you've lived, every address, the last 20 years, the month and year you moved in, the month and year you moved out. They want it all. They're basically upping your business. There's no part of your life that's left unturned. And I get it. They want to make sure that whatever family receives a child is competent and able and willing and a good family, whatever that means in your own context. So, because I'm anal and because I'm very type A, I didn't want to wait until the end to submit documents. I was submitting things for us on an ongoing basis. So as soon as we would complete a task, those things were sent over to the agency. So remember I said we have to submit our application on November 18th. So we did that, and we went in person, around like 12 o'clock or so, brought everything in very dutifully in our manila envelope and checking the boxes, making sure we had everything squared away. Carlos, as you can tell, is pretty much the calm and steady one. I'm the emotional one, for the most part, and I tend to worry a lot about things that are definitely not in my control, but I worry nonetheless. And so I was supposed to go back to work that afternoon. I wasn't in the space where I felt like I was able to because I was just a bit overwhelmed and stressed by the process. So we went to lunch after we got the clear that everything that they needed was submitted. Then Carlos had to go to work, and I was meeting a colleague for drinks after work hours. And so I dropped Carlos to work, I come home, unwind for about an hour, and then I head back out to Williamsburg where I was meeting my colleague. On the way to meet my colleague, I get a phone call from a number that I recognize to be the agency. And so from my perspective, I'm thinking to myself, oh crap, maybe they realized that we missed a document, we missed a form. If even one signature is off, we gotta make sure that that's in before we can pass go. So I answer the phone, it's around 4 o'clock. I'm like, hey, I won't say the person's name. Did I miss something? Did something go wrong? She's like, no, everything is in. But we have a really highly unusual situation in our hands. There is a baby. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what you guys do. So of course there would be a baby. But the baby is in need of a home, and we thought that you two would be the perfect couple to be parents to the baby if you were interested in learning more. And so I pull over to the side of the road because I'm a little bit in shock. I call Carlos. Do you remember what you were doing at the time?
I was at work at my desk. It was 4:30. And he called me telling me you're on the agency on the phone and they want to talk to us.
Well, first you were like, babe, I'm going to call you back. I'm like, no, the agency's on the phone. Just are calling me back.
Because I was busy.
Well, okay.
But once you mentioned the agency was on the phone, I was actually in the middle of interviewing a patient. Yeah. And I had to tell the patient, can you hold on a second, please? This is very important. Yeah. And the agency woman said that, I think we have a possibility, a perfect match. She says, okay. She says, what's the date of birth? She goes, September 26. He says, okay, it's ours. And she's like, no, there's some other step. This is, lady, you don't understand. You can't do nothing to stop this. This is God right here. I said, do you know that my anniversary is the 27th? So that's a gift. So, okay, what else we got to do? Let's get it moving.
And so for me, I'm a little bit in shock. Anyway, so we learned what his name is, and they told us his name was Timothy. And they said to us that his parents had specifically requested an LGBT couple of color, to be specific, to raise him. I'm not going to necessarily share their details around the circumstance that they were in.
Doesn't matter, it's a blessing. Thank you.
But they asked us if we were interested, and without hesitation we said yes. And of course, after that, a lot of thoughts are running through your mind about, first of all, for me it was like, holy shit, like this is 3 hours ago. I was breathing a sigh of relief that
you're thinking double the dates.
We can, enjoy married life for a little bit longer, and we have time to get his room ready or a room ready because we didn't know if it was gonna be a boy or a girl and how long it would take. And they said, we want to place him in your home before Thanksgiving, which would have been a week and a half after. So we're like, okay, so like for real, you want this to happen now. And so we're like, fine, like whatever we have to do, we'll do. Keep in mind that part of the process is that you have to undergo a home study, and that happens after the agency has reviewed all of your documents and has determined that everything is in, background checks have cleared, everything is sort of stamped, and then the next process is you do your home study. So the agency has to do an emergency home study where they have to come to our house and just see where the baby would be sleeping, interview us both together and separately to make sure that we both were on the same page about our readiness to be parents, our willingness to be parents, and our ability to care for a child if and when they're placed in our home. And so that process happened. Unfortunately, he was not able to be placed with us before Thanksgiving because of the time that it took to get the social worker to our house for her to write up the home study. It's not like a checklist. You have to write a narrative around what they experienced in our home, and that takes some time to be reviewed, edited, and submitted. And so we knew what was going on, and other than my boss, my mother, your mother and your sister, we didn't tell anyone what was going on. So
And
and Samantha, his
my other sister.
yeah, and Tamina's godmother. We didn't tell anyone what was going on because we weren't even sure what was going to happen, if we would end up with something.
I know what was
He
on.
knew, but I'm a nervous wreck at this point.
As I told the woman, you can't stop this.
Well, she could have, but
She couldn't.
but she did.
When I tell you, if God is in control, there's no one that can stop it. So for me, I had that assurity that this was meant to be.
Yeah. And so Thanksgiving came, and I think at that point, had mentioned to my grandmother and my grandfather and my sister at Thanksgiving that this would have been a possibility to happen in the next week or two or so. So yeah, Thanksgiving happened. We knew he was coming. Keep in mind, the process is about $37,000. Sorry, it was average. Ours was $32,000, excuse me. And we had only paid $5,000 of the $32,000 at that point, because we were expecting to do it in phases, meaning the orientation happens, you pay $5,000, and then after your documents are in and you're clear, you pay $15,000, and then 30 days before the placement of your child, you pay the remaining amount. And you could argue about why private adoption costs so much. That's not for us to speak about. You can read up online and figure out why that is. But anyways, we had to come up with all that money, and thank God we were able to. And yeah, they said to us, December 2nd will be the day that he will be placed in your home, so get ready. So I found out on Friday. The next day, myself, my mother, and Carlos, we were at Babies R Us buying a stroller and all of the essentials.
You had to paint the room.
Yeah, but we didn't paint his room yet.
Yeah, we started.
We started the process the Sunday, the day after. Yeah, we started painting because we live in a house where our master is on the main floor and then 2 bedrooms downstairs, and so we knew that he wasn't going to be in his room right away, but he wanted to have a room for him that was his. So
it was necessary.
Yeah. So when the woman came to our house to survey the house, of course, we didn't have a room ready for him, but we knew here's where his room was going to be, and so we had get all of that. Anyway, so December 1st, I was told that we would be receiving a picture of him at some point that day, and that we would hear from the woman who had been caring for him for the 3 weeks between his mother giving him up and us receiving him as our son. And so we got a picture of him, and I never forget, I was in a meeting, and I knew I was expecting this email, so I had my phone in my hand like this on loud. I didn't care who was in the room. My CEO was in the room. I just didn't care. Everyone had to understand that this was really important to us, and nothing else mattered more than this. So Carlos doesn't get good reception at his job, and so he would have to rely on me getting it and calling him, though he was CC'd on the email. So the email, we'll put a picture up in a minute about to show you the first picture we saw, but the title of the email, if I'm not mistaken, was "Meet Your Son Timothy." And I opened the email, and it was like, you have those moments where it all makes sense to you. For me, it was definitely that moment where I'm gonna start again. Nothing else mattered more than that moment, because though you know a child is coming, you have the child's name, you know all about him, you hadn't seen him, and seeing him, it all makes sense, right? Like it was gonna be the 3 of us. And so I called Carlos at work. I'm like, get to a place where you can get internet reception so you can see a picture of our son. And I'm not gonna lie, after the initial shock of it, the first thing I thought to myself was, oh, he'd be light. Not that it mattered, but I had a certain image in my head given the description of his parents. So I didn't expect to see what I saw, but what I saw was perfect, right? He was our kid. And so that night, of course, we didn't sleep much, because the next day, that would be the last day that we would ever be able to sleep through the night for a few months. And so our meeting time is 1 p.m. on December 2nd, 2016. So the next day, Samantha, again, you notice Samantha is always with us for the most important times in our life. And we're grateful to have had her and have her in our life for all of our important moments. She's been there for the very beginning of our relationship. She was there before I even knew Carlos, since they were teenagers, I believe. But anyway, so we went to the city and we met our son. And it took a lot out of me personally, because Carlos, you'd been through this process with your brothers before. Though it's a little different because, you know, though you were their brother, you were also the father figure at the same time. But in this scenario, you were doing it with me, and it's your son. He's gonna call you dad, and so I'm sure you had your own emotional process and spiritual process.
I had my emotions when I was painting this room, and I think I turned to Esther because I tend to hear things, and yes, I'm not crazy, but
you're only crazy if you respond.
No, I do respond because I have to say thank you, God, because the Spirit kind of dropped in my mind or in my spirit that if anyone wants to know the process, let them know, above all things, it couldn't have been possible without God. So what I heard was, but God. Everything wouldn't turn out the way it would have without God involved. And we have our own spiritual walk, individually as well as collectively. I tend to vision or see things, and as I am painting this room, I started to cry, because in the midst of acknowledging that in spite of what others think that we are, living our truth and being gay and, you know, wanting to create a space to nurture and develop someone, God saw fit to bless us with the perfect child. And regardless of what's gonna come next, don't know. But if God is in it from the beginning, He will be in it in the middle, and He will be in it in the end. So for me, I've always been on that space of, I'm grateful for the opportunity that we'll have to raise this child. He tends to be the worry wart. I'm not necessarily worrying about certain things.
Someone has to be.
That's how we kind of balance each other, yin and yang. You know, at the end of the day, when we went to the agency to meet him, and again, there's videos of him when we meet him for the first time.
I think it's called on our it's earlier on our feed on our channel. You can see the actual moment where it all happened.
He got emotional, and
not during. I actually kept it together.
When they handed him to you, you were like, all right, there we go. Because when they came in the room, they were giving it to me, I go.
So it was so the door is here, and Maureen, which is a godsend, I think Timothy was her 31st child that she had taken care of between the parents handing.
And I think that's a story that needs to be told.
Yeah,
there's so many women and families that is out there that are caregivers for young babies who are in the transitional stage to get to a home.
They're not getting paid for it.
They're not getting paid, and they are the most caring individuals until you have to give that child up.
And even after, a lot of parents choose to
keep them involved.
So we have kept in contact with her. You know, she's one of, I mean, if you ever heard or believe in saints on earth, like she honestly has been a godsend to us, but and to Timothy, of course. So.
And other kids, the other 30, and after Timothy, I think there was
3 more.
3 more. So you know, she's a blessing.
She has 2 teenage daughters of her own, so having to do that, and a husband and all that stuff, I mean, that entire family, we're very grateful to them. So I didn't lose it completely in that moment, but you know, we strapped him up, drove back to Brooklyn, and I'm in the back seat just like staring at him like, holy shit, this is real now. I went on paternity leave first. I was off for about a month of work. Carlos was out for 3 weeks in January. My mom took some time off, and then I separated my paternity leave into 2 parts. So I was able to take 2 months off altogether. So I really wanted him because we were his 3rd home in 2 months. really wanted him to have some consistency with us and not have to go to a nanny or daycare or anything like that for as long as we could afford it. That night though, my mom came over and she met him for the first time, and it wasn't until I think we were going to bed that I actually lost it. I remember saying to you, we did it. Like, who would have thought that, 3 months. The whole process took 3 months from start to finish. From the time that we expressed interest in our agency and went through the webinar to the time that he was placed in our home, 3 months. 3 hours in between the time that we dropped off our paperwork and got the call to say that they were interested in us being his parents. And so,
I also think the agency ladies, seeing our wedding pictures and some of the other pictures, they felt our energy, and there was that connection for some reason. You know, like God is still in the midst of this, touching people's heart, even if that's not their belief. Seeing our pictures and seeing us, how we communicate and how we interact, they knew genuinely that we were good individuals. And I don't have to ask anyone permission to say that I am good. I try to be the best me at all times, whether camera on or not. And the best me is when I'm walking in purpose. And I know that there's a greater purpose for both of us. And being a parent, there's no other greater purpose than that. If you can give 100% of yourself to a child and provide the space to nurture them and grow them and groom them in the path where they should go. And yes, he will have a choice to choose whatever religion he wants to believe in when he gets there. But until then, I'm the one praying over him. His father is praying over him and making sure that he will be open-minded to everyone and the walks of life around him.